Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I was reading the bio of my next guest, and it says he's also a contributor for Inc. magazine, has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Entrepreneur magazine, and a host of other publications. And I just started to flash back about my days at Kettle One Vodka as the VP of Marketing and PR. Forbes magazine, man, they used to take care of us. We would fly into Manhattan and get on the Forbes yacht and go to this most extravagant dinner on the yacht with service that I've never even experienced before. And I just thought, man, these people live in a different world. So I'm thrilled to have Jeremy Miner on the call today, and he's with Seventh Level. Welcome.
I've never been on the Forbes yacht, so I'm a little bit upset right now. We're going to have to email them and say, look, hey, why are we not on the Forbes yacht? What's going on?
Well, I think the difference is it says you were a contributor where we were an advertiser. We spent a lot of money with those guys. I think they had to.
They don't care about us, right? They just, yes, there you go. Well, hey, it's a pleasure to be on the show. I appreciate you having me on. Montana, where you're at, is a great place. I haven't been there for a few years, but that's a great place to go in the summer. Our corporate headquarters here in the U.S. are here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it's like 112 degrees today.
Yeah.
Hot. So I'd much rather be in Montana right now. It's probably like 70.
Yeah, it's going to be 70 today. Good call. No, we might eke up a little bit, So I started the show with that intro about Forbes, and what's interesting about that is, we're going to talk about sales today. Those guys did a great job of selling, right? Because they gave me an experience at the end of the sale, something that was unforgettable. We're talking 20 years ago. And I feel like I was on that yacht yesterday. They delivered on what the client was looking for, even if it was, hey, maybe I've got to admit now, 20 years later, it was about the experience, right?
I like it. You're never going to forget that for sure. I agree.
Yeah. So I believe that you can bring a ton of value to my listeners about sales, how to survive in this economy, how to take the next step, how to get ahead. But I'd like to hear a little bit of your background first so they've got some foundation there. And by the way, any guy that's been on Brad Lee's podcast is good enough for me, man, because Brad is awesome.
Been on there a couple of times. So Brad's a good guy. Became really good friends with Brad's. Our some of our virtual training courses that we have are through his company. Lightspeed VT as well. So As far as my background, I'll give you a little bit of my background because I think, my background really relates. Like if there's a sales professional listening or a sales manager or a sales leader or executive, or let's say a business owner listening right now, or an entrepreneur, and you're wanting to sell more of your products and services. So I started in sales as a broke, burned out, college kid, 21 years old. Basically, company hired everybody that I got recruited for because it's a straight commission job. It was door-to-door sales. So hey, they just hire everybody that's willing, right? Because there's no skin off their back if you don't make any sales. They basically give you a script, a couple of books from the, what I now call the old sales gurus. And they basically kick you out of the van and say, hey, go make some sales. We'll pick you up at night. It's going to be easy, right? And I thought sales was going to be easy. I was a 21-year-old kid. That's what they told me. My sales manager said, when they open the door, be really excited and tell them how great the service and the product is that we offer. And they're going to be excited and invite you in. And I found from the very first door, that really wasn't the case at all. And I found out that really the more excited I was to the prospect and the more, salesy I was, that the more sales resistance I triggered. And I kept getting objections like, we don't need it. Your price is too high. We already have somebody for that, Jeremy. I need to talk with my spouse. It's too expensive. We've got this that we use. Can you, I might be interested. Call me back in a week, a month, a year later. And I quickly figured out that I was, that selling was going to have to be something that I was going to have to learn. I was going to have to learn more skills than what this company and what these few books were going to give me. And I remember probably about 7 to 8 weeks into that, after a day where I was sitting, on the corner of the curb, manager was about to pick us all up. My legs were completely worn out. walking all day, 12 hours knocking on doors. If you've ever done door-to-door sales on here, you know what I'm talking about. Sweat was drenched down my back. It's in the middle of July heat in the Midwest. And I remember I'd not made a sale that day. So I made $0. That entire week, I made 0 sales. I was at $0 after 5 days of working. Okay. Straight commission, you don't make any money. And I remember sitting there thinking like, maybe selling, maybe sales just wasn't for me. Has anybody ever felt that way yourself, listening? And I remember I got into that van and he popped in a CD. Yes, 20 years ago, people listen to things called CD, right? So he popped in this CD by Tony Robbins, of all people. Everybody probably knows who Tony is. And Tony said something like this. I could be completely butchering it, but he said, most people fail for the simple reason they don't learn the right skills that are necessary to succeed. They don't learn the right skills. Now, he goes on to say everybody's taught skills, really, for the most part. But he said people that fail are the ones who are not taught the right ones. And so I like, there was this, the heavens opened up to me. It was like divine intervention that maybe what the company was training me, what I was learning from what I call now the old sales gurus, maybe they just weren't the right skills. Maybe they were just outdated. Maybe they didn't work very well anymore because I'd never thought that could even be a possibility. I was so new to sales. Now, at the same time this was going on, Jim, I was in college and my major was behavioral science and human psychology. So I was learning from my behavioral science, psychology professors that the most persuasive way to communicate was over here. Whereas what I was reading from the old gurus, they were saying it was over here. It was like complete opposite odds. Like it didn't make any sense. So I'm like, how do I bring in this theory of why human beings make decisions one way or the other, like, neuroscience? How do I bring that into sales? And that's where the sales methodology started, which is now known by, hundreds of thousands as Neuro-Emotional Persuasion Questioning. Okay. And then, the rest is history. Made a lot of money in sales, retired at the ripe old age of, I think it was 38. And a couple of years later, got bored and started 7th level. And here we are.
That boredom comes fast, right? You try to step away and all of a sudden you're back in the thick of it. I didn't know
what to do with myself. I was twiddling my thumbs every day.
What I love that I read about you was basically a quote. It says, the single most effective way to sell anything to anyone in 2022 is to be a problem finder and a problem solver, not a product pusher. And, I come from the alcohol business, Kettle One Vodka, and then my own tequila company. And, we learned telling authentic stories about who we were and how the brands were made. We did much better than the competitors that were just pushing. And I'm a huge believer in that. But I don't think people get it as much as they should and as important as it is. How do you help people understand that?
Well, okay, behavioral science 101 is you have to learn the right questioning, asking it at the right time with the right tonality to get your prospects to pull you in, okay, rather than you pushing them forward. Because what happens, like if you're married and you tell your spouse they really, really need to do something and why they need to do it, and then you keep pushing them to do it, what do they typically do back? They push back. Mm-hmm. It's just behavior 101. Salespeople do the exact damn same thing. And then they wonder why they get all this sales resistance and rejection all the time. So when I say that in that quote that you read, in our day and age, so we live in what many call the information age. I think we all know that, right? In the information age we live in today, it's not even good enough to be a problem solver. Like all these sales books behind me that you guys can see, I don't know if they see this on YouTube or if it's, just audio, but if you see the books behind me, every single book back there will say that you have to be a problem solver. You have to solve problems. That is true. However, if the prospect does not buy from you, you can't really solve their problems. So for them to buy from you, you have to be even better at problem solving, right? Okay. And problem solving means we're asking the right questions at the right time that helps your prospect find problems in their mind that they didn't even know they had, right? And one thing we all have to understand and realize is that most of your prospects, and I think everybody knows this, when you first start talking to them, don't even realize they have a problem, right? Would we say that that's right? They don't realize they have a problem, or maybe they know they have a problem, but they don't really know how bad the problem is because they're on the inside, right? They don't know how bad the problem is. And maybe they don't even understand the consequences of what will happen if they don't do anything about solving the problem. So when you learn advanced questioning, when you learn questions and how to ask them with the right tonality, you work with human behavior, that triggers your prospects to want to open up to you, want to engage with you, and go below the surface. And when you're able to help them find not just one problem, but maybe 2 problems or 3 problems or 4 or 5 problems they didn't realize they had, how do they start to view you? They don't view you like all the other pushy salespeople that they view as just somebody else trying to stuff their solution down their throat, and they kind of commoditize all those people, throw them over in the corner, right? They view you more as the expert now, more of the trusted authority who's asking questions that's really gotten them to think deeper about what their situation really is. And when your prospect starts to view you as the expert or the trusted authority, the sale's already over. It's already made, because in their mind, they're willing to spend more for you, if your solution, over everybody else, because they feel like you understand their problem and where they want to go 10 times better than anybody else trying to sell them the same thing. So that's what I mean by problem finding. Now, here's the problem here. What, like you said, what do most salespeople, what have they been taught? And when I say that, I don't blame salespeople. It's not their fault. This is just what they've been forced to learn. Most salespeople have been taught to be what we call product pushers. I think that's kind of what you said. I give it a different term, where they're taught how to ask a few consultative questions. So, Joan, tell me 2 problems that keep you awake at night, or what type of budget do you have for something like this early in the conversation? See, those are just surface level consultative questions. There's no emotion there. It doesn't open a prospect to want to engage. And it's basically like, I'll give you an example. It's like taking a bucket of mud, okay? Because we're asking a couple questions. We're asking a couple of questions, and then what do most salespeople do? Oh, well, yeah, they tell a problem, like, well, here's how we can solve that for you, and they jump right into their solution, right? And so it's like taking a bucket of mud and throwing it up against the wall, hoping and praying that something we just said is going to magically trigger the prospect to want to buy. And I call that hopium. It's a drug that so many salespeople and business owners take, where they just hope and pray something they say is going to trigger that prospect to want to buy. And it's really a very hard and unpredictable way to make a living as a salesperson, or to really scale your company as a business owner. That's what I mean by problem finding. It's the most important key that your salespeople, if you're a business owner listening to me right now, to me and Jim, with the looming recession that is probably already here, right? Because when the government starts denying that there's a recession, that means what? Yeah. There really is a recession, right? Did anybody go through 2008 and 2009? The government was like, there's no problems. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. The next morning, press conference. Oh my gosh, we have to have $1 trillion package or the economy's gone tomorrow. You're like, wait, you just said for the last 6 months, there's no recession. What just happened overnight? So when the government starts denying there's a recession, that really means there is a recession, and it's only going to get worse. So what's going to happen here in the next 2-3 months? Everybody's going to see this by the fall. They'll start admitting there's a recession. You're going to start seeing more companies cut back on their employees. So salespeople that are average, below average, are going to get cut. So don't be average. You want to learn advanced skills. And when you're talking to your prospects, what are they going to be thinking? They're going to be more scared. They're going to have more fear. They're going to hold on to their money a lot tighter because of the uncertainty of what's happening. Now, do they still have the same problems? Yes. Does your solution still solve those problems? Yes. So if you keep selling the same way you are right now, and your laydown sales get chopped by 80%, and now there's really not a lot of laydown sales, what's going to happen? Well, your income is going to start going way down. You're going to see it. So you have to learn advanced skills. If you're the business owner, same thing. If your salespeople keep doing everything they're doing right now, because every weakness in their sales process and their sale ability now that they have will only be magnified by 10 times with the recession, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder for them to sell. So you have to learn more advanced skills that really open up your prospects and get them to engage if you want to not just survive what's about to happen, but actually really thrive in the coming situation. I digress. Back to you.
Yeah, good. It's a good dialogue. And by the way, Jeremy, you can expand on this a little bit. I would imagine if somebody uses the technique that you're talking about, and technically it's probably a technique, but I feel like you're building a relationship with somebody that person will go on to say, yeah, he's a salesman, but he's become a friend because he understands me and my business. And as you
Yeah.
know, and others should know, that carries way into the future in terms of your ability
Yeah.
to sell more and build that business up.
Well, it's a skilled relationship. I think some people, a lot of people like, oh, you got to build a relationship. But in my mind, building a relationship doesn't mean getting on a sales call or an appointment, but like, so how are you doing today, Jim? How's the weather up there in Montana? Yeah, here in Scottsdale, it's really, really hot. Yeah. Did you watch the game last night? That doesn't build a relationship because your prospect knows
Yeah.
you are genuinely not interested in how their damn day is going. They know you're not going to want to sit there and listen to how their day is going for the first 20 minutes, right? So it's a tactic that every salesperson uses. You automatically, like when you ask those type of questions that every salesperson that's ever tried to sell this prospect uses, what immediately goes off in the prospect's mind? Salesperson trying to sell me something, trying to build a relationship. So it actually triggers most of your prospects, unless they're laydowns, to emotionally start shutting down. And even the very best questions you have, they're going to stay very surface level with you. And then at the end, I want to think it over. I need to keep looking around at other vendors. I need to do more research. I need to get more quotes. That's why, because you never were able to get them to open up because they knew what you're doing from the very beginning.
Good point. Hey, look, a lot of people that listen to this show are looking at careers. What direction should they go? And as we know, college isn't for everybody. And I like to promote trade schools and other opportunities. And direct sales falls within those categories. Could you speak to the opportunities in direct sales if somebody was looking to make a career move?
Well, I mean, I think sales in general, because direct sales means different things to different people. But in my mind, any type of sales position where you've got a product or service that's not like a $5 magazine subscription type of service, because you're not going to make a bunch of money selling magazine subscriptions door to door, right? Those are like starter jobs. But any type of service or product that has high price points, once you learn the right sales ability, because sales is not something you're born with. I hate to tell everybody this, like that is a myth. Like, oh, that person was born with the gift of the gab. Well, gift of the gab people typically are average salespeople, just so everybody knows. People that talk a ton as salespeople really don't sell that much. That's just what the data shows. I'm not going off like, oh, I know a guy that sells a lot and he talks a lot, so that must be true. I'm just going off what the literal data shows. People who are extremely extroverted, that talk all the time, typically are average performers to below average performers, because their prospects feel like they don't understand them. They don't listen to them. They don't ask good quality questions. People, now that can be learned. So when we get extroverted salespeople we train, the biggest thing we have to train them how to slow down, how to actually slow down the talking. Like, you're talking 90% of the time, we want you to talk 10% of the time. So we have to like lower that down. Your question ability, you're more of a facilitator as a salesperson. So your question ability is going to determine your success. So I don't care if you're introverted, extroverted, or if you're in the middle now. There's a new one that's kind of like a mixture of both of those. It's called like extroverted. It's like a different form. Sales is something that is an acquired skill. No one is born out of their mother's womb with advanced questioning skills and advanced tonality. That is something you acquire and you learn, okay? So you can't learn, you can learn questioning skills. Can anybody learn how to ask questions? Can everybody learn tonality and like how to pause, how to make verbal sounds? Like, those are all learnable skills. So in my mind, sales gives you the best opportunity to succeed. Let's say that you're young and you want to start a business. Well, you need experience first learning how to sell. Okay, because you're going to be selling what? You're a business owner. You're going to be selling your team that you hire on the vision of where you want to take your company. That's one thing you're selling, right? You're selling your products and services. You're selling your business model to try to raise capital. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you first really have to learn how to sell. So in my mind, sales is always the best way to start. Okay, unless you're like, a computer, neurosurgeon or something like that. Sales is a place to start because in general, it gives you life skills that you can do with anything because everybody's really selling, right? Like if you're an attorney, you're trying to convince the judge that your client's innocent. That's sales. You're trying to persuade influence. If you're a school teacher that's trying to convince your students to do their homework, you're trying to persuade, you're trying to influence, right? If you're a politician, you're trying to persuade people to vote for you. You're trying to influence, convince, move others, right? If you're a employee trying to convince your boss to give you a pay raise, I hate to tell you, what are you doing? You're selling, you're trying to persuade, you're trying to influence. So getting into sales, any type of direct sales position, B2B sales, B2C sales, insurance, solar. I mean, we train 158 industries. And according to Forbes, there's 158 industries. I didn't even know that. Did you know there's only 158 industries?
No idea.
I seriously thought there'd be thousands. Now there's subsets of those, but there's 158 industries. So if you get into an industry that has high price points, okay, and I'm not saying just millions of dollars, but you're selling something that's at least $5,000, 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, you're going to have higher commissions and you negotiate. Now I'm going to say something completely at odds with what most people would say. You negotiate a lower base, but a much bigger window with your commissions, you can make a ton of money. People that have high bases, you start to learn how to really, really sell well. You're not going to stay with that company because you realize like that base is holding you back from making a big time amount of commissions.
Yep.
Hope that helped everybody.
Good point. Yeah. Well, I learned a lesson on that one day. I negotiated the low base with the high commission, and they weren't willing to pay it because I moved way beyond the ceiling they ever thought it was possible. Right. So I had to jump ship.
That's no bueno.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Like when I got into sales jobs, like I never had a base because I always like after my door-to-door commission job, because eventually I got up to where I was making like 80 grand a month in commissions as a 23-year-old kid still going to college. And so I realized like, wow, if I get paid straight commission and no base, like there's a lot of upside to this once you learn how to really sell. So when I got into like bigger sales jobs, they would always try to pay like 50% base or 60% base. I would literally come in and be like, I don't want any base because I'd always get recruited. I don't want any base, but I want this commissions. And like, yeah, that's great. And, after about 3 or 4 months, they're like, holy hell. But what could they do at that point when you're making the company millions of dollars? They're like, well, we got to keep this guy now. But if I'd had that base, I would have hosed myself.
Right. Hey, let me ask you something. Talking about career strides and the success that you had. What do you say to the person that's been in sales for several years, a little bit of burnout, but they still got something in the tank and they want to step it up a notch? How do they step it up a notch? Sometimes we get in that rut. We just need a little click
together.
You
have to learn more advanced skills. I think the biggest problem, and I always say this, low 6-figure salespeople have high egos, right? They think they know everything about selling because they make 100, 150, maybe even 250 grand a year. So they stop learning advanced skills. And when you stop learning advanced skills, guess what happens to your income? It just levels off, if not goes down, which triggers burnout, right? Because you're not advancing your career. So the top salespeople who keep making more and more money that we see are ones who are thirsting after knowledge all of the time. Like literally, they spend 30 minutes to an hour a day learning more advanced skills, more advanced questioning, more advanced tonality, and their income goes, let's say they're making 15 grand a month to 18, then to 21, then to 26, then to 29, then to 33, then to 37, then to 41. And when you're starting to make more and more money every month, it's really, really hard to burn out because that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So you learn more advanced skills, you start making more money all the time, you don't really burn out. And especially when you learn skills that work with human behavior that eliminate sales resistance from your prospects, selling is really fun because you don't go, when you're getting your prospects to internally feel so much tension, not sales pressure, that's external, that wears off, right? That's why you have cancels and refunds and chargebacks because you push them into doing it for your reasons, not their reasons. But when you learn advanced questioning and human behavior, and you get them to feel so much internal tension from where they are, current state, compared to where they want to be, objective state, the gap is all these newfound problems, that they persuade themselves why they have to change, you don't go to bed at night worrying if they're going to cancel the next day because they've internally persuaded themselves. So at that point, you don't have all the anxiety, you don't have all the frustration, you don't have all the moodiness that most salespeople have because they're fearful that somebody's going to cancel because they push them into it. And selling really becomes really a lot of fun because you really feel good about what you do and you're making a ton of money. That's how you avoid burnout.
What a great point. Little shout out to Brad Lee as well. I read his book last month and he talks about the resources in books. I'm looking at all the books behind you. I've got a few behind me. You can learn something every day and advance your career.
Yeah, it's 100%. You're so true. Like the first thing I learned, I went to a sales seminar when I think I barely turned 22. It was like 3 months into my sales career, door-to-door career at that point. And I went to a Brian Tracy event. Everybody probably knows Brian. And one of the biggest things I learned from him, he said, "Hey, make your car a university on wheels. Like, don't listen to radio, don't listen to talk radio or music. Like, how much money does that make you? Zero, no money, right?"
That's right.
So I took that religiously. And from that, like literally, I left that event on a Saturday. And on Sunday, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do everything he said there. And so every single day while driving down the road since then, I do not listen to music. I swear I've maybe listened to some classical songs. You probably could count how many times on my hands. Okay. Now, unless my kids are in there because they're listening to their stuff, I'm not going to make them listen to like sales training or something. Right. But like if I'm in my car driving to work or wherever I was going from that day forward. So I religiously, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to read 60 books a year. And I started from that day forward. So I read 3 books a month on sales, persuasion, influence. And then I listened to 2 audiobooks a month. That's 5 books a month times 12 months. That's 60 books a year for the past 22 years. That's almost 1,400 books.
Wow.
That's how you learn advanced skills. Because look, if you're a sales professional, an entrepreneur, or business owner, your income is directly related to what? Your sales ability. So we might want to take it serious. If you're a neurosurgeon, you really probably need to learn more how to do better surgeries, right? So you are paid more, right? Same thing as in sales. Like if you want to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or more as a sales professional, or if you're a business owner and you want to scale your company 2, 3, 5 times bigger than it is now, it's all about learning the knowledge and the skill level to do that. Because it's not like the knowledge doesn't exist. You just have to go out and do something to acquire the knowledge. And when you acquire the knowledge, you have a competitive advantage over everybody else that gets lazy, which is 99.9% of the people you're competing with. So you're right there at the 1%, top 1% of the top 1%. If you religiously acquire knowledge like that, like there's nothing you will not be able to accomplish in your life for sure. You ask Elon Musk, I'm assuming, how much he reads or how much he learns, and it's probably way more than what I do. And that's why he's so gifted. Right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Matter of fact, I'm teaching a course and I encourage the students to read Think and Grow Rich. And it's amazing how many people haven't read that book written in 1937. I'm on my 10th time and I'm listening to it while I'm in the gym for those 3 hours I mentioned earlier. But, I'm picking up stuff that I forgot about, or I realized, man, I kind of put that in the back corner the last 5 years. What incredible value there is in that. And if you spend $10 to $20 on a book, if you get one little thing out of it, it's worth the time, money, and effort,
Yeah. I mean, there's been several sales books that in my career that I read 3, 4, 5, 6 times, right? And those are just books. I went through probably 150 different sales training courses too, right? Because look, if my income as a sales professional is directly related to how great of sales ability I have, then I want to acquire the greatest sales ability possible, right? Just makes common sense. So if you're a business owner, you want to acquire the greatest amount of knowledge to run a business, but also, especially if you're starting out and you're on your own trying to sell, you want to acquire the sales ability to be able to do that. Or if you have a sales team, do you want them to acquire the greatest sales ability or just hope and pray that they figure it out on their own? That's a dangerous situation to be in. You don't want to leave your business to maybe some salespeople that really aren't that serious about their profession, because that's when your company, doesn't matter if you have the greatest product or service, goes nowhere because your salespeople are not that serious about their profession.
What a great point. Perfect layup for you've got a book coming out fall 2022.
Yeah, this is our first book. We started 4 years ago, so we're a fairly young company. Moving up though, we won Inc. 5000 top fastest growing companies 2 years in a row.
Excellent.
So we announced it 2 years ago, and last year we ranked the #1 fastest growing sales training company in the United States by Inc. 2. We don't know what that ranking is yet. We won't know for about 3 weeks for this last year, But we're moving and grooving, So the new book, I have to shout out my co-author that wrote it, Jerry Acuff, which is the CEO of Delta Point Consulting. It's a very large consulting firm on the East Coast. They mainly do a lot of pharmaceutical companies that they train, and they have some other clients out of that, but they're really big in the pharmaceutical space. But anyways, we teamed up. I had him on my podcast. We think a lot alike with our sales methodologies. And we're like, hey, let's write this book. Jerry's written 5 other best-selling books. And so that book will be available in the end of October, where you can buy it online, like Amazon, those type of things. Our publisher is Morgan James Publishing. It won't be available in bookstores. Like if you want to go and walk into Barnes & Noble, it won't be in bookstores until March of 2023. But if you want to buy it on Amazon and online, you'll be able to buy that at the end of October. And it's called the new model of selling, selling to an unsellable generation. And we're going to peel back the layers of how the consumer, because of the information age, the power of the internet, social media, has drastically changed the way they think. And we as sales professionals and business owners have to understand how to get around that. So we're going to give you a lot of tactical training in that book. One thing that was really annoying to me when I was a salesperson was a lot of sales books, most of them were all about hype and motivation and setting goals. And I'm like, okay, I get that. But what do I say when they say hello? What do I ask that triggers them to open up? So that is a book that most of it is just tactical training. And here's the question you're going to ask if they say this, and here's how you're going to do that. So you want to start learning there, that's a good place to start. And if they, when they want to get some free resources, learn what we do, they're welcome to go to our Facebook group. So they can go to, I think I gave you the link, www.salesrevolution.pro. So they're welcome to join salesrevolution.pro. That's one of our Facebook groups. I think we have about 27,000 people in that group. They're all entrepreneurs, sales management, sales professionals that want to sell more. And right when you join, check your messenger on Facebook. Somebody on my team will message you over a free training called the NEPQ 101 mini course. Just some different questions that you can use for different sales situations. That alone will help you sell more. And we go live in that Facebook group about 3 or 4 times a week with different trainings on different subject matters, different Q&As. So they're always welcome to join that if they want to learn how to sell more, for sure.
What a great value. I think we're all going to feel guilty if we're listening to music in our car now, though.
I know. I have that effect. They're like, damn it. I always get people that tag me on Instagram and they're like, damn it. Yeah, I'm listening to sales training again. Thanks, Jeremy. I used to love my rap songs. I can't listen to them anymore.
Yeah, they can thank you when they're cashing their sales checks too. So
I can't listen to CNN or Fox News about politics all the time, even though it doesn't make me any money.
That'll make you depressed is what it'll do.
Exactly.
Jeremy, what a great value you brought to our listeners today, and myself, I really appreciate it. I'm going to put all these things in the show notes if you want to hop on that Facebook group or find that book when it comes out in October. Jeremy, we really appreciate you, and certainly if you're out there selling, there's no way you're not going to sell more after listening to this show, so thank you.
Yeah, and when they go to the Facebook group, they'll get emailed when the book's coming out. So one benefit of the Facebook group is there'll be announcements like exactly where to get the book, when it's actually available, what day. So yeah, if they want to get the book, have them join the Facebook group. They're going to get some free resources. And if they've got teams and like, man, we love the nuggets, we love the hors d'oeuvres you give out here, but we want the whole thing. We want our salespeople to learn these skills. They can just message us in there, and then somebody can reach out to give them more details for sure.
Love it. Can't beat that stuff. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, livelifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen, and thank you, and have a great week.